Megapixels. If your camera doesn't have a lot of it, it's junk, and the more you have, the better, right? Wrong. Megapixels have long been marketed as an upgrade in camera gear, an improvement to a camera, an increase in image quality and therefore better photos. But in my time shooting, I found the opposite to be true. More megapixels, more problems. Let's get into it. A photographer's never-ending problem. All photographers have this one big problem that will never go away: storage. We need it to store the thousands of photos we just took on a trip, edit off of, create backups, and of course, create redundancies, just in case a fire happens and we lose all our data. And the photographers who have been doing this for a while will know there's no perfect solution. Hard drives, RAIDs, etc. have to constantly be upgraded and backed up. And even cloud-based archives can be expensive and troublesome for back and forth workflows. This problem becomes even worse when you introduce cameras that can capture more data. When you increase the megapixels on your camera, you increase the file size as well. This can seem like a small price to pay when you upgrade from something with 26 megapixels to 40 megapixels, but it adds up in the long run. One raw photo on the 26.1 megapixel X100V takes about 56 megabytes, while one raw photo on the 40.2 megapixel X100VI takes about 83 megabytes, uncompressed. That's a 1.48 times increase. It may not seem like much, but when you extend this over the long term, thousands and thousands of photos, you end up with hundreds of gigs less space, meaning you get less photos per gigabyte of storage you have. Now you might be thinking, so what, Andre? Storage nowadays is cheap, and if I just need more storage, I'll just buy another hard drive. That's what I thought as well, but I didn't realize how extending this process over the long term doesn't solve or fix the problem, it just delays it. I used to edit off a 5 terabyte hard drive. I thought that would last me forever, but it's almost filled now. So I bought another 5 terabyte hard drive and I back up both drives to a NAS system that currently has 14 terabytes of space. About 9 terabytes of that is already taken up. So realistically, I'll run out of space within the next 3 to 5 years or so, and then I'll have to upgrade my system. And let's not even mention separate hard drives if you want redundancy for backups. So already, I can see the end coming. As you dive deeper and deeper into photography, storage becomes this never-ending problem that you push back throughout your life until you eventually die. It's endless, and there's no real perfect solution. Yet. Plus, finding a way to optimize storage, folders, and catalogs can be a big headache. More megapixels only contributes to this problem. Because if I take 1,000 photos over the course of a trip on a camera that has 1.4x the megapixels, that's 480 more photos I could have taken. That's not insignificant. And if I take 1 to 2 trips a year or a few thousand photos every year, you can see just how much of a difference this makes. And this is only talking about 40.2 megapixels on an APS-C camera. Imagine if I shot full frame or with a 100 megapixel camera. Each photo would eat up my hard drive, and I don't think my heart could handle it. And I know the people who shoot JPEG only must be laughing right now. This begs the question, if it takes up so much space, why have more megapixels in the first place? The obvious justification for this would be the quality increase. If I have more megapixels, I'll have better quality photos, right? Not necessarily. Let's talk about that. More megapixels equals better images? Is there proper reasoning for increasing the megapixels in newer cameras? The main reason companies do this is to show an upgrade, because no one wants to buy a new camera with the same amount of megapixels as its predecessor. It doesn't make for good sales. But does this increase in megapixels actually make a difference? Personally, I do think it helps, but not by much. Let's talk about why. In the current age of photography, there are two main mediums for your photos to live on: digital, or online, and physical, or print. For 99% of digital photos, you don't need a lot of megapixels. That's because websites and social media will down-res your images. You have your image size and quality and your viewing size and quality. And even if you take a 4K res image with 300 ppi and upload it to Instagram, it won't make a difference, because the maximum viewing size on Instagram is fixed. They do this mainly to keep loading speeds quick. You can technically get more mileage on websites, but the same concept applies, because most screen monitors have a maximum resolution and a maximum PPI. You can even extend this concept outwards. Our eyes have a maximum image quality that they can view things at, and anything beyond that is pointless. So without getting too complicated about it, the point I'm trying to make here is there are diminishing returns to the amount of megapixels you have. It could even be better stated as there are diminishing returns to image quality. The same applies for print. Since digital zones cap out earlier, print in photography is perhaps the highest form of image quality you would need. So it's a good standard to judge how much image quality matters. If your camera takes good enough photos to get good prints out of, you're good. You don't need more megapixels beyond that technically speaking. Ideally, you'd like to be able to blow up your files and get as big as 30 by 45 prints from it. But that's the high bar, and most of us don't need that. So here's the interesting thing I've learned from my many years printing. The bar for image quality needed for good prints is much lower than you think. You don't need 100 megapixels to get high quality print-worthy images. In fact, I've taken and printed many photos off this 13-year-old 12 megapixel X Pro 1. Sure, if I wanted to make a really big print, I'd have to upscale it in Photoshop or something, but for the most part, it's fine. And in my opinion, 26 megapixels is actually the sweet spot for print. It gives you a good range and flexibility to edit out errors in post without being overkill. So here's the question to ask. If I can get large, solid quality prints from a 12 megapixel camera, how many megapixels do I actually even need? The answer is not more. We've long passed the threshold of image quality needed to get good photos on both the digital and print medium. And anything past that can make a difference, sure, but to a degree of diminishing returns. The most difference you'll see is in the 0 to 26 megapixel range, and anything beyond that matters less and less. That's in my experience, at least. But Andre, what about photo editing? More megapixels means more data and flexibility to edit and post, right? Well, let's talk about that. Image quality isn't actually important anymore? The final reason people think they need a lot of megapixels is for photo editing. More megapixels gives more data, making it easier to edit details and whatever. And I'd agree with that to a certain point. The question I want to ask is, how many megapixels do you actually need to get the look you want? And does more megapixels actually help you get the look you want? Because in my experience, I've gotten plenty of great images with lower megapixel cameras and also many trash photos with higher megapixel cameras. So I don't think megapixels contributes to better photos, although our brains might tell us otherwise. And if I'm honest with myself, the unfortunate reality is my sorry photography was the real limiter on whether or not I got a good photo edit, not the megapixels, right? Ask anyone who edits a lot of photos. They'll tell you the better of a job you do when taking the photo, the easier of a time you'll have in post. This applies no matter how many megapixels your camera has. And more megapixels isn't going to make your image better or save it, per se. Sure, it might come in handy when adjusting or masking here and there, but it's my thought process that if it's gotten to the point in the edit where I have to do all this bullshit to make the photo right, I've done something wrong. Another point I want to make is that image quality and a nice looking image are not the same thing. This is a big lesson we've learned in the past decade with the revival of film photography. People all over the world had intentionally downgraded to what would normally be a lower quality of photography, because as it stands, digital photography is better quality, arguably cheaper, and more convenient to do. Yet people still shoot on film. They find it more fun, more interesting, and ironically, looks better. And if film had a megapixel equivalent, it wouldn't have mattered because that wasn't the point. The reason why we take photos is to take photos, not to preserve every single hair on someone's head. So at the end of the day, more megapixels means more problems. You end up with an increased file size, potentially more expensive cameras, and better image quality you probably don't even need. In my opinion, it's not worth the trade-off. Because for me, if a camera is good enough for print, it's good enough for me. You'll have to find your own sweet spot for image quality and practicality. And all I can say is, don't look to more megapixels as being better. Focus on photography and making your photography better. And then it won't matter how many megapixels you shoot at. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful or interesting. Please share this with a friend who also needs to hear this. And if you'd like to learn more and build a solid foundation with photography, check out Photography Essentials. It's free. You can also support me by adding to the travel fund or grabbing a copy of my photography zine, The Sinking Sun. We also have shirts available for a limited time. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.